Good evening, everybody. I'm Grim Reaper, and with me, as always,
Cynical Squid.
and
And Perrythepig.
and tonight we've also got Aaron Action RPG on here. How you doing, Aaron?
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. Excited for the next hour.
Awesome. So Perry has a particular question he usually likes to ask everybody whenever it comes to Last Epoch in the community. So why don't you go ahead and hit him with that first one there,
Oh,
Perry?
great. Here we go.
It took like 3 weeks before these two people started telling me who the guest was going to be before the guest was on. And now you're telling me that I've got a question to go to as well? Good lord, man.
It's probably
All right.
like I'm guessing it's like what's my favorite build or something like that.
You know what? Tell me about it. Because I see that you play like a ton of different RPGs, right?
Yep.
I had to spend some time snooping around your YouTube to make sure
boy.
that I knew which games you played. And you really live up to your name of like action RPG. You're all over the place with the games you play.
Well, I try to
So-
cover the entire genre, which is massive right now. Like ARPGs are inundated, and you know, there's a lot of games that claim to be action RPGs that aren't, or they're roguelike, rogue light, and action RPGs and third person and a whole bunch of stuff. But Last Epoch is my number one. It's my number
So
one.
let's start out with something nice and easy then. So you've already recommended the question yourself. What's your favorite build? What have you enjoyed most in Last Epoch so far?
So for 083, I've dropped 15 builds. Some are better than others, okay? And a lot of them I created with the community over Twitch. For this patch, Spellblade. My Shatter Strike Spellblade is my favorite build. It can crit at almost 800,000 at level 70. I think that's my favorite. But overall, in Last Epoch, it's Necromancer. Anything Necromancer. And I know you don't like Necromancer, I don't think. Right?
I like being in charge of my own damage. I like when I'm the one hitting things with a big stick. But I mean, I can appreciate it. It seems like the people who like Necromancer, they're just like gung ho about Necromancer in every
And that's
game.
what's
they
funny is
play.
that I've never made a Lich, and we don't have Warlock, so all I play is Necromancer. But I have my Fire Necro is my main build. It's level 100. It's on its 7th iteration now. I update that build every single time we get a patch.
So you've been coming back to Last Epoch for a while now. Can you tell us like how you got started in Last Epoch? Like what got you hooked in? What has you staying around right now?
Yeah, no, great question. So I've been playing Last Epoch even before I had my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel, we just hit 2 years. So we just passed our 2-year anniversary. And prior to that, me and my wife were looking for a new game. We're sick of all these games we've been playing. I've been very blessed to have a wife that likes playing PC games, which seems crazy, but so we were looking for a new game. We came across Last Epoch. We're like, oh, this is an up-and-comer. Let's try this. Download it. We're playing together. We're trying to figure out how to link into multiplayer. And then we're like, oh, this game doesn't have multiplayer yet. So we ended up shelving it. Then I got into Wolcen. I got into Warhammer, Inquisitor, Martyr, and then Torchlight. And then when I got sick of those games, I moved back into Last Epoch. And I've been playing for a long time.
So I do have other questions that I want to ask, but I want to make sure that we get like the get to know you stuff out of the way. So one of the big purposes of this podcast is to highlight people that we see in the Last Epoch community. Unfortunately, the English language is one of those limitations. We haven't been able to reach out to the other languages yet. But like people who are on YouTube, people who are on Twitch, people who are making content on Discord or Twitter or anything, we're reaching out to them. We're trying to make sure that we know who is in the Last Epoch community. So I want to ask this right now. When people see your content, when people see like you go live on Twitch or your YouTube videos pop up, what kind of content are they expecting to see? Is this like the primo top of the top builds? Is this like a casual playthrough? Is this like the kinds of things that you've been enjoying? What do people expect when they come to you?
Yeah, so I've made now 136 videos on YouTube for Last Epoch. So it really started as a news channel. So anytime 11th Hour Games dropped something, we would get notified on my Discord. I still get notified, and then I would make a news video. And as I started working on my craft, as I started streaming, as I started to get know the game better, people in my community would be like, hey, can you make a build guide? Hey, I saw you playing this. Can you make a build guide? So then I started making build guides, started getting better, started getting a better understanding of the game. And, 082, I made 6 builds. 083, I made 15, and I'm working on 16. Now, are they builds that can do everything the game can handle? No. Like, we do consider our builds like average Joe builds. And what I mean by that is anybody that's a casual gamer that, can play Last Epoch after work, can grab one of my builds, get to empowered monoliths, not have crazy gear requirements, and they can have a lot of fun with the game. So a lot of my builds I created with my community through Twitch, through trial and error. Like, for me, it's all about community. Like, on YouTube, I respond to every single comment. We have over 1,200 members on our Discord, 3.5 thousand subscribers on YouTube, and I've been on Twitch now for almost 3 months, and we're about to hit 1,000. So for me, it's all about community. We are now doing community night as a Discord every Saturday night where we poll the community and we play together. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it seems like things are going really well for you too.
Yeah, things are rolling. Like, just right now, Last Epoch, it's kind of a dead cycle for Last Epoch right now, which normally happens when you get a new PoE league, or once you're a couple months outside of a major update. Like, it goes up, then it comes down. We've been focusing a lot on indie titles right now and startups. So yeah, things are going fine. Oh, and we got a visitor.
Hello, special guest.
Hello.
You want to say hi, honey? What do you want to say?
I want to say hi. My name's Mia, and my favorite food.
What's your favorite food? Is pizza. Okay. Thank you for saying hi, baby. Okay.
Pizza is
So we
also
have a
my
favorite-
favorite food.
We have a favorite food. Do we also have a favorite hat?
I know,
I know
right?
there's gonna be some people who are listening to the audio podcast here, and they don't know that you have maybe 10 or 15 different ball caps hung up on the wall behind you. Is there a story about that?
So every hat that I have is custom order. So every single one, like, I've got my logo on it. I've got the ARPG, and what happened is it turned into a game. So if you subscribe to my channel on Twitch, you get to pick a hat. And behind one of those hats is a little figure. And if you find the little figure, you win a free game. Like, right now, you win a free copy of Kill Squad. Sometimes you win a free copy of Last Epoch. And it's turned into a game. And as time has progressed, people have requested, oh, can you make, a one with a curved bill? Can you make one that's white on black? Hey, can you make one for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that's pink? And as time has progressed, that's how many I have right now. So, and then it's like, if I'm playing Last Epoch, like, normally it's purple hat. But today I'm repping Core Punk, a new isometric MMO coming out, and Artificial Core sent me this hoodie, so I was like, sure, I can wear it.
That's an awesome idea. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, again, like, community, engagement, it's all good stuff. All good stuff. And I have a wife and 4 kids. So if they keep popping in, I have a large family.
Did you have any questions you wanted to ask, Cynical?
Yeah, so you mentioned that you were primarily like a news channel for Last Epoch when you started, at least doing Last Epoch content at the very least. What got you into the idea of doing content creation in the first place?
Oh, yeah, good question. So my son, what was he? He was 13, 12 at the time when Mixer was still around, and he was on his Xbox. And he started a Mixer, and he's like, hey, Dad, I've got 113 people, following me. And I was like, oh, that's good. And he's like, you couldn't get 113 people to follow you because, to your kids, you're an old man. So, that night I talked to the wife. I was like, hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Started a YouTube channel to show my son that I can get more followers to him than him. And then that's really all it was. Like, my love for Diablo 2, I was like, if I'm really going to do this, what would be something that I'm super passionate about? Action RPGs, isometric, role-playing games. That's kind of how it started. And then I was like, oh, this is a fun hobby. So then I stopped going to the gym, started making YouTube videos.
So when did you first get into Last Epoch, though? What was it that actually got you into it originally?
It was the skill system. Like, I really enjoyed the skill system, and initially finding that skill that triggers another skill. That's what I've always really liked, that the way that you can build a build kind of around one click. It's like you click this, which makes this happen, and then that, makes a totem or something like that. Like, I really enjoyed the way that they built the skills. And then for me, like, I always wanted to like push myself. So you had the arena that you can see how far you can go, and then old school monolith. So I used to make YouTube videos like, how far can I go on the monolith? Because back then, when you die, you start over. Perry, have you been around that long where you would die and you go
awful.
back?
No, I haven't
Start
been
over.
around for that.
It was pretty rough.
You
Yeah.
started right with the mono changes, didn't you, Perry?
I started like one day beforehand, so like I know what like door A, door B looked like, but then like immediately afterward it was like 082, and that was the beginning of me.
So back in the day, it would be like, I'm on monolith run 70. And every time it gets harder, kind of like you would think like arena waves. And when you died, you go back to 1. You got to start literally all over again.
So
So
one
I
of
would
the
make
things,
a YouTube video like, we're pushing wave 50. Let's see if we could do it. And then I would die or something.
so one of the things that I found out and that I've been saying about Last Epoch is like the game is like a kind of pseudo hardcore as it is right now, because if you die, you have to like start over at the beginning of the echo. Or like if you die in arena, you start all the way back over at 0 or at wave 100 with a special key. Comparing this to something like Path of Exile, where you have 6 portals, or if you die in the middle of a map, the maps there are obviously much longer. They're not just 60 seconds like they are in Last Epoch, but you can go back in and you can like keep going where you dropped off.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that Last Epoch had this old system where like your entire monolith got reset. What do you think about like punishments for softcore players? Like, do you want like none at all? Do you want, like the entire monolith being reset? Like, do you put any thought into like hardcore versus softcore? Like what you like punishments to look like?
My community wouldn't like this, but I like punishments because it makes me play not lazy. So I get comments all the time. It's like, back in the day, it would be like, I can't believe I died and it sent me back 4 monoliths. And then, for the old system. And then I'll be like, dude, it used to go back to 0. But when I would play, even in softcore with that system, you would play like a hardcore build. You would take a look at the pack. You would try to figure out how to kill the pack, even if it was really easy, because you didn't want to die. And I've always liked that risk/reward, where it comes to, if there's no penalty for death, then you're not going to care. You're just going to do whatever it is you're going to do, and there's no big deal. And I totally get that, majority of gamers, that's what they want, because, they're casual and they don't have a lot of time to invest in it and they just want to have fun. But for someone like me that's trying to min-max and, trying to push it to the next level, I like the idea of something is on the line.
Have you ever done like a self-imposed hardcore, like an Iron Man challenge or anything like that?
No. Lately, I've been playing very casual, but I've been playing literally so many different games. Every week I'm playing probably five different games. So when I log into Last Epoch right now, there's one character that I've never leveled before. It's a Beastmaster. Since I was so hardcore into Necromancer, I was like, Beastmaster is like a budget Necromancer. Like that. I don't want companions, I want summons. So finally I was like, that's not fair. Like, let's make a Beastmaster. We just hit level 70. I don't even know what I'm going to turn it into yet, but right now we're working on a Beastmaster. But I've been playing very casual.
Very casual kind of sounds like what I'm doing off stream as well. I've been playing just a little bit of the brand new Path of Exile League.
Yep.
So normally, that's Path of Exile is like the game that I played for many, many hours before investing any time into Last Epoch. And like this has been my first league in Path of Exile where I just feel like an absolute casual. Like I haven't read the skill tree. I don't know what the new skills do. And honestly, it's kind of nice. Like it's nice not knowing everything ahead of time. It's nice not having a plan. Just kind of going in, clicking on things, and I will tell you, one of the things that I felt bad about is I think I got too much Last Epoch on my mind right now, where I had like a bad skill tree, and I was like, oh, you know what? I wish I trimmed out all the stuff on this side of the Path of Exile skill tree, and I wish that I spec'd over here instead. And then I
Yeah.
realized like I'm playing in in like a private league, and I don't have any regrets. And this isn't Last Epoch. You can't just freely change your skill tree from one skill tree to another skill tree. It's like, man, I totally forgot how bad this feels.
Exactly. You're gonna have to hold on. You're gonna have to hold on to chaos to transfer for regrets through trading, and then you gotta use books. You might as well just start over.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna start over at this point.
It's
But
a
yeah,
private
it's
league,
funny
too.
to see like what the big differences are between hardcore and softcore when you're used to one of them and then you try out the other one, right?
Yeah, we were, again, like, not to sound like a broken record, but lately for me, I'm really trying to find games that I can play with my community. Like, that's what I found a lot of fun in. Like, and it doesn't even matter like what the game is. Like, I put this poll on YouTube and on Discord, and whatever the community votes on, that's what we play. One week it was New World. Another week, like, I don't know if it was a joke, Wolson, Lords of Mayhem won. We were playing Wolson.
Ooh.
We were literally playing Wolson as a community. What else? We were playing Kill Squad, the new roguelite. Then last week we were playing Path of Exile Scourge, because of course Path of Exile won. And, we're not hardcore PoEers. And even if we were, like, that wouldn't be the point. We were just trying to share items. We were just trying to get through, Act 2. And it's like that is the fun from, being a content creator, is being able to engage, and play with the community. So that's been like the new kind of fun route for us. And we're focusing a lot on indie titles instead of AAA.
You mentioned something at the very beginning of this podcast here, saying that you play a lot of different action RPGs, but you also look at games that like call themselves action RPGs, but they're actually roguelikes or something else. Like,
yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Like games that you think like maybe fit in this category or maybe don't fit in this category, but you like anyways? Just
I think a better way to put it is, and I should have said it at the beginning, is that action RPG is very broad. So like if you looked up like what's the best action RPG of all time, most of the time it pulls up The Witcher 3. And people are like, that's not an action RPG because it doesn't look like Diablo. And because people normally think like isometric top-down view is an action RPG, where really an action RPG is anything that has action combat, that is not turn-based, where you progress a character through levels and gear. That's all it is. But what a lot of game makers will do is they'll put hack and slash, they'll put role playing, they'll put action combat, they'll put action RPG to label their games so that it has a broader audience. So, most of the time it's opinion based what the game really is, or however they want to label it. So we've been playing a lot of Kill Squad, we've been playing a lot of Anvil Vault Breakers, we've been playing a lot of Last Epoch, Path of Exile. Today's stream we were on a new roguelite called The Unliving. It's this game where you're only a necromancer, and everybody you kill you could bring back up. We were playing Elion, the new MMO. We were playing Eclipse, Undungeon. I mean, it's just like a whole bunch of different games.
what is it about the like action RPGs that makes you want to focus on them for your content? Like, is it the action part of it? Is it progressing through gear? Is it progressing through skill trees? Is it like the hack and slash stuff with a light bit of narrative on top? What is it that draws you to that genre?
Well, I mean, when I first started playing computer games, I'm not crazy old, but when I first started playing computer games, I was really big into RTS, real-time strategy. So I played like Command and Conquer, Red Alert. I played StarCraft. Like that was my jam. Like, how fast can I make these probes to get this pylon up, to get that cannon out, to then rush them with, zealots or something. Like I loved RTS. And then in high school when Diablo 2 came out, like it just changed everything. Like that was no longer fun because it's like, oh, that's like work and math and timing, and you know, like that's too much work. Where now I've got my little character running around trying to slay as many monsters is fun. So it's nostalgia because I played that game for so long. And then, you know, modern Path of Exile, Last Epoch, Warhammer, all these different games, you know, it was the genre that I fell into that I always enjoyed the most because growing up with that was my favorite. But yeah, you know, I love theory crafting. I like trying to have the best possible character. Now I'm really big into build guides and trying to figure out something that no one else could figure out worked. Push yourself. And for Last Epoch, I'm excited for PvP.
I, for one, haven't heard anyone else say that yet. You're excited for PvP? You want to hit somebody? But there's only one person. What? The whole fun is hitting thousands of monsters at the same time. You want to hit one person, one at a time?
So we're already setting it up. It's going to be through my Twitch, but we're going to be setting up Friday night fights. Once PvP drops for Last Epoch. And Boardman's already running his mouth that he's going to take me out and all this stuff. So you know, Lone Star's down, Lizard's down, Boardman's down, I'm down, and we're gonna set up a bracket around PvP Arena because I think it's gonna drop in some kind of arena dueling, something like that, where it'll be fun, but you won't lose anything when it comes to PvP. And Perry, if you want to lose too, you can come in as well.
Wow, shots fired.
Dang,
Just
Perry.
coming out swinging like that, aren't you?
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
You think you're gonna lose, Perry?
I'll think about it.
But Perry, if you were building a character around PvP, it would be very different. Very different.
I haven't put any thought into this. How are there even tools in Last Epoch right now? Like, give me an example then. What's an example of a tool in Last Epoch right now of like some kind of consideration that you would make for playing in PvP versus playing in like normal Last Epoch?
Well, you would want movement skill. You'd have to have something where you're quick, you know, shift, something like that. Shield charge, something to move. And then normally when I make a build in Last Epoch, you need some kind of mechanic to kill enemies fast, so to clear trash, and you need to have some kind of mechanic to kill single target. Where in PvP, you don't need to worry about killing trash. So what you would focus on is single target and staying alive.
So you're saying if I were playing against you, I wouldn't even need single target then, right? I just use the trash skill?
Oh, I get it.
Listen, we do have a bit of Last Epoch news that I want to make sure we get to before we get too far away from the smack talking. We had something come out earlier today, and somebody already has a YouTube video up about it. So, Aaron, do you want to talk to us about the spear rework that we just heard about from the HG?
Spears. So it doesn't make sense for Javelin, the new throwing skill, to use a pole arm. It's really stupid, right? You poke people with a pole arm. You don't throw a pole arm. So it makes sense that they have completely changed pole arms to now they are spears. Just like you would see in Diablo 2, right? Like the Javazon class. So now we will have spears that we will be able to throw and still poke people with if we want. And they're completely restructuring blunt weapons. It never made sense. So now they're just moving everything that was a blunt weapon into maces. And then we have new spears. So
And
they
now
just
I can't make my jokes about one-handed blunts and two-handed blunts.
exactly.
It looks like this is just like a thematic rebranding. Like nothing's functionally changing, but we're calling them different things, so we have different categories.
Exactly, because beforehand it's like, wait, is this a mace? Is this a blunt weapon? Like, what category does it fall in? And they made it very clear, like, it's stupid, right? You'll have like a sickle or something like that, but it'll be a mace, and it won't make sense. But at least you will know what category it falls into. So,
Right.
yeah,
It's
like
actually
it's
funny. So this past weekend, I was playing in one of Vision GL's weekend tournaments that goes on basically every weekend, and I was playing a melee earthquake character where I wanted like the biggest, baddest two-handed weapon possible, and I just bonk people with it. So one of the appeals of that is like you know instead of going spell-based EQ, you can play melee EQ, and
Yep.
you can use like a Lucerne, and a Lucerne is just like the biggest, baddest, 140 or something flat damage with up to 10 base melee crit. And the whole time that I was building my character, I was like, Lucerne. I was like, where is this Lucerne thing? And it took me like a solid 60 seconds to realize that it wasn't a polearm, and it's like a two-handed mace. It's like, oh, I don't even know how to look for items in this game. And
'Cause
it's
it
the
doesn't make
example that they
sense.
call out in
Yeah.
the news post too. Like, well, you think it's one thing, but it's actually this other thing. Okay.
Yeah, so there's, I mean, as they get closer to 1.0, a lot of the stuff that doesn't make sense, they're going to iron out all that stuff. And it is newsworthy because, we're getting spears, which is nice. We're getting a new base class or new base class weapons. But yeah, totally makes sense. I like it. I'm more excited about crafting changes. I want to see what they're doing to crafting in the game.
We know that crafting changes are coming out in 08.4. Let's
Yep.
see. What do we know of the crafting? We know they told us to hold on to items that have good tier 6 and tier 7 modifiers. They told us what did they tell us about legendary items? I forget what they told us there.
So this is where we're at. We know for 084, we know that the Eternity Cache is going to have something to do with legendaries. That's what we know. We're pretty sure that is going to be one of the ways that we can acquire legendaries. And again, this is just what I think.
Speculating at this point.
It's just speculating.
So, like,
right?
you could technically get a tier 26 or a tier 27 item, which would be like totally maybe a tier 28 item. You get all tier 7 modifiers.
Yes.
And in the same kind of way for being like technically possible, you can get maybe an item with 12 affixes on it. They teased that to us recently.
They did. That's what I made my whole dev chat 31 around. It was around legendary items tier 12. Now, I talked to Mike on the side, and Mike said that 6 to 9 should be about the average. If you get 9, that's awesome. The average would be, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, but you got, standard items 4. So if you're getting 9, that's still huge, but the question is, can you craft on it? So the question is, can you craft on it? Anyways, so when it comes to crafting changes, I think, and this is just me theorizing, is that you could take that, item, put it into the Eternity Cache, and it could become a legendary item, or it can get boosted somehow. Or maybe what they said is to hold on to your tier 6 and tier 7, because we know we're getting new runes and new glyphs, and maybe there's going to be some kind of ultra rare glyph or rune that allows you to craft on that tier 6, tier 7.
I'd be very into that. The more that I play Last Epoch, the more I just want like more crafting options.
Yeah, because you don't really care about anything unless it drops purple, right? It's like whatever. Like that's
Yeah, kind of.
This may be super overpowered, but I would love to get a glyph or a rune or something that I can remove a non-exalted affix from an item guaranteed. Because the amount of times I've put my awesome purple thing into the forge, and then it removes the exalted, and I'm just like, I'm going to install this game.
At some
it's
point,
it's like it knows to take it away.
It does.
At some point, you drop the OP item, and like when you're a new player, your blood starts pumping. You're like, oh boy, look at this item, it looks so good. But like for like you and me, you drop an item that looks insane, it doesn't even get you going. It's like, well, this is probably gonna break, so I'm not even gonna bother.
And now when I'm streaming, because most 90% of the time I'm playing Last Epoch, I'm streaming now. I just smash it too. Like, not one. Oh, it went through. Let's try the. I just click it as just.
Yep.
And if it hits tier 5,
yeah, I was like, how many tiers can I get before I hear the glass sound?
I know. I keep telling them to remove any affix. Remove any affix in the game that has to do with frickin' potions. I don't know how many times I've told them that too. You'll get a belt that has something to do with potions or something. Like, get rid of all those. Nobody uses those for builds.
I don't know. I use the cleanse on belt.
Oh, whoa. Aaron, do you not use a cleanse belt?
Oh,
My heart. Every
Not
single
needed.
film. I think it's too strong. I think it's like kind of busted that they put that back in the game.
It is. It's real strong.
Real, you shouldn't be drinking soda. It's bad for you.
What about potions?
Hey,
I don't
Perry,
know.
Everything's bad
Those
for you.
blend
It's
things are
in
pretty strong.
moderation.
Perry, I've got a question for you.
Oh, tell me.
What's going to be the third transformation for Druid?
Their transformation. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to be pig form. So I'm kind of sad about that. I think that's a little bit too close to like the bear stuff that already exists. But I don't know. I think going back to maybe drawing on League of Legends for some inspiration. Maybe like a phoenix, where it's just like the guy walking around with his wings flapping at people. Yeah, I could see that kind of thing, borrowing from Udyr.
That would be cool. We
Yeah,
know it's
some
going to
kind of
be.
bird thing.
We know it's going to be melee DPS. That's literally all we know.
Have you ever angered a goose? That could be melee.
That's true.
There's
Look.
crossover there.
So look, there are geese on the campus that my wife works at, and I actively avoid them because, frankly, they're terrifying.
We're about to get real off topic here, but I used to work in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the place where I worked, there was a part of the parking lot where nobody parked. It was like a huge parking lot, and like you could park in half the parking lot, but you couldn't park in the other half of the parking lot because that's where the geese were, and like people didn't park there.
Yeah,
I didn't want the geese.
bruh. Like, have you seen a geese get like? Have you seen like a goose? Have you seen a goose
How
get
is
pissed
this
off?
the most lively part of the conversation? Come on, we got to go back to last epoch. Let's go.
We don't have to. We could talk about the many crimes against humanity perpetrated by geese.
They're pretty scary.
So,
I think it
speaking
should
of-
be a dinosaur, some kind of dinosaur transform.
So I was thinking a raptor transform would actually be really sick.
But they're not going to do it. He's already been asked and said no.
Yeah, I know.
Raptor would be cool. But dinosaurs are in there, and we know it's going to be melee DPS. That's all. And everyone likes dinosaurs, you know.
I do like that for the transformations teased in 084. We've already seen the updates of what it's going to look like, and it looks amazing. Like, it just looks like something I want to play.
The beefed up Spriggan, Groot, big old tree.
So I mentioned before that I was playing a little bit of Path of Exile off stream. So I've been mainly doing Last Epoch for the past couple months, played like 2 or 3 days off stream of PoE, and like Path of Exile, like I've got plenty of good things to say about it, and I've got plenty of bad things to say about it too, like things that I do and don't like. But like that game looks gorgeous. When you put on Herald of Ice and you've got the explosions, and I was playing an occultist where like enemies explode and had that purple poof as well. It's so flipping satisfying. That
Too
game
fast.
Something.
The problem is it's too fast.
The whole gameplay, it's another level of fast compared to Last Epoch.
I know. When I think of pretty, I think of the gameplay teasers for PoE 2. Have you seen those?
Absolutely.
That looks good. And then even the visual showcase that they did 2 quarters ago for D4, like, I mean, they look really good. They look really good.
Do you find yourself drawn to games that are just like visually pretty, or like are you drawn more to like the underlying systems of how you build the characters? Do you like the combat stuff? Like, would you play OSRS right now? Old school RuneScape?
I'm actually more drawn to the studios. So I like it. I like supporting games that have studios that support the community. So, I mean, that's why, you know, Blizzard, I haven't been as hot on Blizzard lately with everything going on with them. And then, you know, even Grinding Gear Games, you know, I feel like once you reach an echelon of largeness as a company, you know, obviously it turns in, you know, it's always about money, but it turns in more to bottom line, less about the community and more about making money and not making a great game. And that's why, you know, my leadership for my channel, we focus a lot on indie startups, people that are very close to the community, where you can make a recommendation and they will actually change it for you. We played a lot of Slormancer. Like I said, today we played The Unliving, Chronicon. Those are games that are pixelated action RPGs, you know? So you know, when you see D4, like, you have to give them credit where credit's due. Like, it's probably going to be one of the best visual ARPGs ever made. But that doesn't make the game. Like, that doesn't make the game fun. I actually think the skill tree they're doing is terrible. But it's going to be pretty. They're probably going to cost $100 million, you know. Of course it's going to look good. But, you know, through communicating with Discords and talking to different developers, community managers, I've started a new segment on my channel on Sundays. It's called This Week in Action. And every Sunday, I sit down with either a community manager, a developer, a publisher of a game that is either coming out soon or has a major update coming out. And we just chat and talk. I had Zen Rai, the creator, on last week. And it's going to be a really fun segment. But, you know, if that studio is willing to sit down and talk with me, it shows how much they care. So
Awesome.
That's what I'm drawn to.
So you were talking about that Necromancer is one of your favorite classes to play
Yes,
in
sir.
Last Epoch. So what is it about the Necromancer that attracts you to it? Did you play D2? Did you play Necromancer in Diablo 2? Is that part of why? So it's that whole nostalgic link between the two? Okay.
I love being the Necromancer in Diablo 2 that, like, shut down the server. You know, where, like, the game can't work because I've summoned too many cows back to life. Like, that was always so much fun. And that was actually when I was playing, you know, Diablo 2 Resurrected. I was like, I want to be that Necromancer now, but obviously, you know, you don't have the lag and stuff like that. So, I haven't gotten there yet because I'm still only, like, level 30 in D2R. But, yeah, I love, there's two classes, and they're actually polar opposite. I love having like an army to control, where normally, like, you're cursing, you're blowing up courses, you're blowing up your own minions, you know, and you're kind of fighting where you don't do any of the damage, but you are controlling the damage. Or sword and board, where now you're like the tank that can just take a hit. I love Sentinel in Last Epoch too.
Okay. What do you like to play in the Sentinel?
Pally. Paladin. I've been playing a lot of Smite recently, just like everybody else. Smite's, like, so overpowered. Throw shield throw, Smite, play Javelin. Been thinking about trying Judgment, but Judgment's always sucked, and I know they've worked on it, but it's always sucked. I'm sure it's better now, but I haven't messed with it yet.
Judgment can trigger Smite if you want to keep playing more versions of Smite.
Yeah, but the way it triggers Smite still isn't as good because, you know, Smite's a spell, Judgment is. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so yeah, but I really like playing. I like playing Sentinel, and I like playing Rive. Rive is probably one of my favorite skills when it comes to leveling or even end game. That skill is so freaking good. Rive. It's one of my favorite builds. It's like my unstoppable paladin. It's really focused around Rive.
Nice.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Rive is one of the first skills that I played in Last Epoch as well. I had somebody in my community who, when I was still playing Path of Exile at the time, they were just, like, bragging to me about, like, how awesome their Rive build was. And I was thinking, like, maybe this guy's onto something. Maybe he knows something I don't. But I tried it out. I did, like, the third hit crit thing. And it's, like, super easy to level. It's, like, tons of damage. But as soon as I got into monoliths, I ran into, like, nodes that had dodge on them and nodes that had crit avoid. So, like, all of my damage was front loaded into, like, my third hit. Where my first two hits didn't do anything, but my third hit did. So, like, if my third hit got crit avoided, or if my third hit got dodged, I just had to sit there for, like, another 2 hits building up my third hit. So I didn't have too much luck with it. But, like, that was my very first build I played.
Yeah. If you're gonna play Rive, especially if you're leveling with it, it's a third hit build for sure. And then you don't have to worry about crit chance. You just stack crit multiplier.
So
Nice.
easy.
Speaking of Last Epoch skills that also hate crit avoidance and dodge, I believe, Aaron, that you did a Racing Strike build for 0.8.3 as well, didn't you?
I did. So I've actually, it's funny, I've got it pulled up. The 15 builds that I've made so far. I just finished my Totem Shaman. Totems aren't that good, by the way, but I tried to see, I wanted to make a build around Boardman's set so I could shove it in his face. Me and Boardman are close, but it didn't work. Boardman's set sucks right now, and he'll openly admit that. So So I had to Axis set, and I made a Totem Shaman, Shatter Strike Spellblade, Shotgun Marksman. That one's really fun, where you're like up close and personal, and the enemies take all the arrows. Meteor Sorcerer, only minions, Lazy Man's build. Leaping Earthquaker, Endless Run Avalancher, Channeling Marksman, Unstoppable Paladin, Lightning Sorcerer, Javelin, Pally Smite, Fire Necro, and Void Cleave Void Knight. And I've never made a Void Knight before, so that was new, but I knew I wanted to make a Void Knight because of Erasing Strike. And that one you could get, you could hit for 1,000,000 damage too. Void Cleave Erasing Strike is nasty. Very nasty. I'm excited to see what that build does, because I update every single build with each update. So it's like, it's a ton of gaming. It's a ton of gaming. But yeah, 15. And right now, hopefully the last build for 083 will be the Beastmaster.
You are setting yourself up for so much work maintaining all those build guides. Like every time you get a new patch, it's just like, yup, this one. So
it's funny. I'm going to do a stream soon where I just organize my stash tabs. I've been thinking about it. I was like, the only way I can possibly keep all this going is if it's like this stash tab has the gear for that build, plus the idols, and then, you know, when you're leveling it, it's like, oh, let's go into the fire tab. Here's all the gear I have for fire. So I'm actually going to try and organize everything because the characters are already leveled. So all you're doing is testing the new mechanic, looking through everything again, maybe updating some gear, and then obviously dropping the video. So, you know, I want the community to always have something new and fresh, even if it's only minor tweaks. You know, obviously they care about making the best possible character, you know, so that's kind of the idea. But yeah, the Beastmaster isn't working out too. It hasn't been very good.
That's the whole Prime list, by the way.
I was about to say that's not related to just the Beastmaster.
I had a question that I wanted to ask earlier, but I didn't have a good segue into it. And I think Aaron, you've helped me here. Tell me about roguelike games and starting over. So right now you've mentioned that like you have this big stash, you want to have like this organizing stream where you put everything in its right place. And when you make a new character, you just like go in, you have a leveled character already, and you put on the gear. How do you feel about that kind of gameplay as opposed to just like starting fresh over and over and over?
So anybody watching, let me explain to what Perry's saying. So there's two types of games that you hear about a lot. A rogue light, L-I-T-E, and a rogue like, L-I-K-E. Now, what these games are is it kind of like, you know, you might have heard it like Endless Dungeon or something like that. It's a game where you log in, you push your character as far as you possibly can, and then when you die, you start over. Now, roguelike, L-I-K-E, is when you die and you start over, you don't get any of your progression, which means you are literally, if you played for 5 hours and you die, you start back level 0. Now, roguelite, L-I-T-E, is different. It's the same thing. You push yourself as far as you can, but, you know, you get to keep your gear. You get to keep some skills. You get to keep some of your progression so that the next time you do your run, you can push it farther, right? I really like them. I really, really like them. You know, the reason why is it's not a game normally where it's like, I'm going to grind the next 5 days and I'm going to be up all night playing this, you know? But a roguelike, and I keep using the same one, there's a new one coming out. It's called Anvil Vault Breakers. It's so much fun. And I believe the senior developer is going to be joining me for the next chat for This Week in Action. And you literally log into the game, you start playing it, and instant fun. Even if you've never played the game before, even if you don't understand the systems for the game, even if you don't even know the keys, you are instantly having a great time. And normally you're instantly having a great time with your friends because they're multiplayer games. And it's like you die and then the person has to come and heal you, and you're trying to work together to get farther, and you're upgrading your weapons throughout, you know, and then the reason why I like them so much is because it reminds me of StarCraft turret defense. I don't know if anyone has played StarCraft, but they used to have a thing called turret defense where you had to defend the base against all the hordes of enemies. And if you died, then you'd have to switch up your defenses. It's the exact same thing as roguelite or roguelike. You've got to change your strategy in order to push yourself farther. So it's really not about your gear, it's about how good you are at playing. Did that answer your question?
I'm trying to figure out if you like playing like softcore or hardcore solo, or if you don't like playing solo. And I can't read between the lines to figure out whether you like solo or not in Last Epoch.
I can tell you this.
I can't figure it out. I don't know if you like it.
Once multiplayer drops, I will only play solo when I'm updating a build guide. I think that is clear. I mean, literally, the 1,200 people on my Discord, I would say half are there because of Last Epoch. And daily, they talk about, can't wait to get in, can't wait to play. Wednesday nights on my channel is Wifey Wednesdays. Like me and my wife play video games together. And, you know, we play fun games. We played like Phasmophobia and It Takes Two and, you know, just different fun games. And, you know, she wants to play Last Epoch, but she won't play it until obviously she could play with me. So, you know, I think I'm never going to not have somebody from the community that'll be willing to play once we get multiplayer. And I really hope they do some kind of clan, guild, something for it. At least a shared stash like you get in PoE where, like, you know, nobody really cares, but at least you could share items, something like that.
Gotcha. Cynical, did you have another question you wanted to throw in?
So we've talked about a bunch of stuff coming up for Last Epoch, and the one thing we haven't touched about that we know is coming, that they have confirmed is coming in 8.4, is dungeons. We don't know really anything about them outside of they will be randomized each time you go in. What is your take on dungeons, and what do you think they're going to add to the game?
I think they're going to be a disappointment at first. So, you know, I don't know if they like it or hate it, but I'm openly critical when it's like I'm not, you know, a Last Epoch shill. I play tons of different games, and it's interesting when you actually read the roadmap. It says first dungeon. So we're getting a singular dungeon experience, which is great because, you know, we'll at least be able to test it. But I don't think it's going to be like a crazy end game mechanic in this iteration when we get it. What I'm most excited about for dungeons is Mike said this specifically, it can be used as a leveling mechanic, which means I'm always that person. The second I unlock my mastery at level 25, I go into the monolith, right? Just to see if I can win, just to see if I can beat one. Because, you know, you're so bored of playing the campaign. It's just like Path of Exile. So you played the campaign 100 times, you don't want to do it anymore. So I like the idea of, like, I can play the campaign, get to 30, jump into the monolith. Now I'm bored of the monolith. Back to the campaign. Screw the campaign. I'm going into dungeon. I'll run the dungeon. I'm bored of the dungeon. I like being able to bounce around during the leveling, you know, to stay engaged. So I don't see this version of the dungeon being something like Perry's only streaming the dungeon today. Like, I don't see that. I see it being something that's different to do. But when you look at the roadmap for the next update, it says more dungeons. So I think they're going to be changing and adding a lot to it in the future.
Just going on expectations for it, I can tell you, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but my expectation for the dungeon, for like the first one and then for like the subsequent ones, I'm not really expecting much more than to compare it to Path of Exile, a Valside area. I think it's basically just going to be like a Valside area. You find it while you're leveling, you walk in, you clear it, you walk out. If it's anything more than that, I'll be very surprised. I'm kind of just expecting that, something along those lines.
Yeah. Yes. I want to see, so I've actually got it pulled up. Lost Memories, Epoch's Call, and then the Gates of Memoriam. I want to see what those are. For the most part, we know what dungeons are. We know the monolith. We know the arena. But you're still talking about potentially 3 more endgame systems. So you're launching 1.0 with 6 endgame systems. You know, so yeah, dungeons will be great because it'll be new, something I'll cover for sure. But those are the ones you want to see what they are.
If any of those endgame expansions are as impactful as the Monolith expansion from 082, we are just like super blessed. Like that's gonna be awesome. If any of them are remotely close, there's 3 of them, like you've said. It's so much good stuff coming our way.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
and I think
hopefully
that's
any
why-
of them are good.
And I think that's why content creators that have been following the game are so excited. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Boardman's talking about quitting his job and going full time because I feel like when you covered the game and you're in it, you know what it's going to be. Like this game that was created off Reddit has a chance to truly be the next Path of Exile. Like, and it's about timing. You're not getting PoE 2 till best case end of next year. You're not getting D4 until probably 2025, right? So you look at it like the market, even though there's a ton of action RPGs, there's not that many good ones. And the ones that are good have been out for a really long time. So if they can nail multiplayer and get this other stuff wrapped up, like they can take half of the community, you know, from PoE over here and overnight be a monster success. So, you know, I feel like when you're covering it, when you talk to the studio, when you play the game, you know, you can kind of see the writing on the wall for what this is going to end up being.
I
exciting.
want to hear about the opposite. Tell me what you like if Last Epoch like fails.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the axis that it fails on?
I mean, if you take inspiration from previous games that were going to be the next PoE and failed, you look at Wolcen Lords of Mayhem. The game dropped with 137,000 concurrent players, sold about 2.4 million copies. And it dropped from 137,000 players to under 10,000 in 2 months. That's like, I mean, the game's dead. 2 months, 60 days, the game is dead. What killed it? This terrible studio, terrible communication, servers don't work. For Last Epoch to fail, they would have to completely drop the ball on multiplayer. They would have to not have their back-end systems ready for a potential Last Epoch or Path of Exile style wave of gamers where, like, you know, they finally pull these 60,000 over, unplayable because all the servers crash, so the people say, the hell with it, I don't want to go over. Or people, they don't improve the visuals. Like, you got to, you know, call a spade a spade. This game is built upon Unity. It's never going to look like some of these other games. They can push Unity to a certain level, but it'll never have the visual representation of these AAA titles. So, but I think they can overcome that with building a great game. But I think it would have to be literally server problems, visuals.
I hear what you're saying. It reminds me, I've got this storyline in the back of my head of other games that I've been keeping track of like things that like had a bunch of hype, then kind of died out, and maybe even the ones that resurrected since there. What was the space travel game? What was that called?
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. Squid, is that a game that you played?
I did play that game, both on release and still mess around with it every now and then now.
That
Never played
game
it.
was like so incredibly hyped up when it first came out, and then just like dropped the ball like a lead weight.
Yes.
But like ever since then, it's been getting like updates and updates and updates, and like the subreddit for it is like nice and positive. People
Yep.
recommend it all the time as well. That thing's like a phoenix out of the ash.
That game.
And I think that, yeah, and I think Last Epoch is smart because they're building their game fairly slow. And when I mean not like their updates are fast, but you know, you're not like Wolcen dropped multiplayer on their game launch day. Like what a terrible decision. They didn't even test multiplayer with the community before they dropped it, you know? Like 11th Hour Games isn't stupid. Like, they're doing their market research. They learn from other studios. You know, they talk to them. They actually borrow assets from different games to put into the game. A lot of people don't know that. But, you know, I think they will thoroughly test everything. And I think it's going to be pretty smooth. I hope so. I'm pretty hopeful. They haven't let us down yet, which is good.
Well, I'm hoping for it to come out perfectly too, because so far I've been enjoying the game, and I know a lot of people. There's definitely going to be a lot more players coming in once they open up multiplayer. I've heard tons of people talking about that's the one thing they're waiting on. But that's going to do it for us here on Last Week of Epoch. Aaron, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. We appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me.
From all of us here at Last Week of Epoch, thank you guys, and have a good night. Thank you again, Aaron.